these mixed gender matches ended badly. But is it because of gender? Take a look at the first match. Here we have a high school wrestling bout between a male and a female. And straight away, the male competitor snatches a leg and secures a dominant position. Despite her evident wrestling skills, the female competitor finds herself completely overpowered by her opponent. Even with her continuous defensive maneuvers, her male adversary's sheer strength and skill overshadow her efforts. Now she finds herself trapped in a pin, utterly defenseless and grimacing in pain and frustration until she loses badly and he lets go. But it begs the question, should males be wrestling females? And is it really fair, even if female wrestlers want to challenge themselves? Here's another fight that ended in tears. But who's to blame? Here's the full story. The match starts off like any other grappling match between this boy and girl. The boy is the aggressor as his female opponent continually defends. And suddenly she pulls guard. It looks like the tide may change in this grappling match. But as she fights for position and tries to impose her game plan, it becomes obvious that she's outmatched. Controlling her legs, the young boy will easily advance position into side mount. And from there, he'll transition into full mount, where he'll work for a submission. It's important to note that jiu-jitsu isn't about using brute force. The boy is simply outsmarting and outmaneuvering his adversary by understanding body mechanics and leveraging her weaknesses, be it mental or physical. And after he sinks in a choke, she taps, and she's crying as the ref assists her. But who's at fault? Was she simply overmatched regardless of gender? Or should this fight have never happened?
Go, Marissa, he's scared!
Yep, her supporter said that. And then this happened. Here's the full story. This college wrestling match begins between this male and female. As you heard before, the female's supporters thinks her opponent is scared. So don't be surprised if he doesn't hold back. Her cheerleaders continue to support her on the sidelines.
Go, Marissa!
You got this, Marissa, come on!
But it's all defense as her head is locked between his thighs. And luckily she escapes. But it's not over as she fights off her back. It's all one-sided so far. Let's see if she can turn things around. After all, her supporters think her opponent is a scared competitor. I'm not too sure what that implies. But now she's in an even worse position. Her leg is being squeezed against her head. She loses the match easily. So did her supporters give her the worst advice? She refused to shake his hand after their match. But did she have her reasons? Here's the full story in 60 seconds. This high school wrestling match begins, and it's a girl facing a boy. The match is fiercely competitive as both contenders battle for dominance. Eventually, the male high school wrestler maneuvers into a superior position, poised to score. However, his female opponent is putting up an incredible fight. She's refusing to lose against this guy. But what happens next is very questionable. He forcefully drives his shoulder into the back of her head. Here's a slow-motion replay. Despite the dirty move, she continues to defend, refusing to be pinned and lose the match. Even a stray arm to the head doesn't stop her. She's close to getting pinned, which is achieved by holding an opponent's shoulders firmly on the mat. And this time the male wrestler gets it. She's pinned to the mat and loses the match. And that's when she refuses to shake hands. But whose side are you on? Was it bad sportsmanship from him or from her? She challenged a male wrestler, but was it worth it? Here's the full story. So with the lack of depth in female wrestling, this female wrestler had to face this male. But as he flings her into the ground, she's in for a rude awakening. Help from the sidelines is worthless. He locks up her arms as she desperately defends. It's not a comfortable position to be in either. Her facial expression says it all. Let's just hope she doesn't sustain an injury. We've seen injuries before in our other videos, so it begs the question. Was it worthwhile challenging a more skilled male wrestler, especially one using full force in competition? Of course, stronger opponents can help you improve, but not when the match is completely one-sided and poses a risk of injury. Anyways, he changes positions effortlessly. And without much resistance, he controls her body and pins her with her legs up in the air. Kudos to the female wrestler for challenging him. This mixed gender match ended in tears. I'm no rocket scientist, but this is probably why. It's as one-sided as a guillotine versus a prisoner, and it doesn't look any better with that purple band around her face. And just like that, he pins and wins. But this really begs the question, would this really help her wrestling? Because it wasn't even close. But how about another mixed gender wrestling match? And actually, how much would this help both their wrestling? Like, come on, he could be fighting a life-size dummy and it would be the same. It just looks like that, perhaps due to both the strength and skill difference. And to everyone's surprise, he effortlessly pins her with her legs up in the air, like she just don't care. And here's a very one-sided grappling match. Here's the context. The boy is 13 years old and the girl is about 14 to 15, slightly older. At this grappling tournament, these teens weren't separated by gender, so they had to face off. As you'll see, it's ridiculously one-sided. The male competitor is already working for a choke. When that doesn't work, he effortlessly goes for another submission attempt. And it looks like he'll sink this triangle choke in and get his female opponent to submit. And there it is. It's a flawless execution from the young male grappler who didn't hold back at all. But would easing up on a weaker opponent be more disrespectful? Because one would not consider them a competitive threat at all. He tried to wrestle Ronda Rousey and got slammed. Same as this guy. But can Ronda Rousey do the same against a male mixed martial artist? Well, let's see. The challenge begins, and Ronda Rousey is the aggressor. She's trying to take him down, and when she does, it's easily reversed. So much so that our male fighter jokingly goes for a heel hook submission. Rousey doesn't like it and kicks him away. And in response, the male fighter takes it up a notch and lifts her easily in the air. Nothing she does can stop him from doing this. But then it happens again. He lets her know who's in control, and her elite judo throws cannot work against this particular opponent. No matter what she does, he has an answer for it. But wait, can she do something in this scramble? Nope, he grabs her leg and keeps her on the ground. And the session is over. His name is Gegard Mousasi, who outweighs Rousey by over 50 pounds. So there you go. Who knew wrestling could be such an extreme sport for gender equality? From high school wrestlers to professional fighters, it's always mixed opinions when it comes to mixed gender competition. That goes for grappling as well, such as Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. Maybe not as extreme as wrestling, though. Of course, skill and experience plays a part, but where do you draw the line? It's important to note that a shortage in female competitors leads to these intergender matches. However, the vast gap in competition becomes evident, posing a risk of injury and offering little opportunity for meaningful learning. And sportsmanship should always prevail no matter the outcome. Respect and fair play should be at the heart of every match, even if it's ridiculously one-sided. And in competition, no one's going lightly. It's a competition. So you can't really fault any of the male wrestlers and grapplers for their dominant performances. They're there to perform, and that's what they're doing. And they don't have control of who they're competing against. What they do have is control of their own sporting development and journey, exactly the same as the female competitors in this compilation. So what do you think about this compilation? Should these mixed gender matches continue, or do they raise concerns? And please join us here at FTC Boxing for more interesting videos. Thanks for tuning in, and we'll see you next time.